These are the 8.3 notes for Algebra 2. We're going to talk today about conditional probability. So our first problem has to do with the Titanic. On April 15th, 1912, the Titanic struck an iceberg and rapidly sank, with only 710 of her 2204 passengers and crew surviving. Data on survival of passengers are summarized in the table below. It's asking us to calculate the following probabilities and write our answer as a decimal to the nearest thousandths. So we're going to set these up first as fractions and then type them into our calculator to get decimals. All right, you can see we've got three categories for passengers: first class, second class, and third class, and then also whether they survived or did not survive. The totals have already been calculated for you on the sides as well as on the bottom. Let's take a look at our first problem. It says, what is the probability that a randomly selected passenger was in first class? So you want the first class total on the top. So first class on the top, that'd be 324, total first class passengers, over the total amount of passengers, 1,317. Type that into your calculator, and I'll pull up the first couple on the calculator to show you how to do it, but you're just dividing here. So it'd be 324 divided by 1,317. And then they want that to the nearest thousandth, which is 3 decimal places. So you need to go out to the fourth decimal, and the fourth decimal will help you decide whether to keep the third decimal or round it up. So it'd be 0.2460. You'd cut it off right here. And the 0 is small, so you would leave it as 0.246. If that fourth number was a 5 or higher, you would round it to 0.247. All right, let's take a look at the second one. If one of the passengers is randomly selected, what is the probability that this passenger survived? So we need the total amount of people that survived out of the total of everyone. So as I look up at the top, survived is my first column. Total passengers survived. $500. And then out of my total again, 1,317. Type that into your calculator. $500 divided by 1,317. It would give us 0.3796. We cut it off right there. And that 6, because it's 5 or higher, is going to tell us to round the next number up. So 0.379 rounds up to 0.380. 79 bumps up to 80. Example 3, what is the probability the passenger on the Titanic was in first class and survived? So we're looking for just the first class passengers who survived. So first class survived would be this group right here. Notice how it's in both of those categories. And out of the total, 1,317. So first and survived out of your total. 201 out of 1,317. Divide it in your calculator. .1526. Remember, we're going out to the third decimal to round, so we look at the fourth one to help us decide. 6 is going to round that up to 0.153. example number 4. Get rid of that. All right, example number 4. If one of the passengers is randomly selected from the first class passengers, so we are only selecting from our first class passengers. What is the probability that this passenger survived? So I need the survived, but only out of the first class. So only looking at first class. So just looking at this information. How many survived? I've got 201 survived out of 324. So you're narrowing down the total. 201 out of 324. I'll type that into my calculator and round to get 0.620. Example 5, what is the probability that the passenger was in third class given that the passenger survived? So if they say given, that means only look at the passengers that survived. So only looking at the survived category. Only looking at this category. We need the third class passengers out of the total that survived. Third class out of the total that survived. $181 out of 500. As you type that into your calculator and round, you'll get an answer of 0.362. Example 6, what is the probability that a second class passenger, so only look at second class, did not survive? So we need the ones that did not survive, but only looking in the second class category. So as we scroll up to the second class, and we just focus our attention on second class right here, we need the ones that did not survive, 166, out of the total second class passengers, 284. 166 out of 284. Type that into the calculator and round correctly for 0.585. For the next problem, we're talking about junior high students asked about their favorite subject. And you can tell already here you are missing the totals for your table. So the first thing we're going to do is finish off the table by getting all of our totals. So we're going to add each of our columns. You're going to add English and put the total right here. History, total it up right there. Math and science, write your total right there. Now would be a good time to pause the video and add up all those totals in your calculator. Let's see what we got. You should have gotten 85, 81, 100, and 32. Then you also need to total them 7th graders up and the 8th graders. So all the 7th graders would get you a total of 116. And all the 8th graders would get you a total of 182. And here's how you can tell that you totaled them up correctly. When you add all the totals across the bottom, you should get the same number as when you add the two totals up and down. So 85 plus 81 plus 100 plus 32, that gives me 298. I know I'm correct because 116 plus 182 also gets me 298. So there's my total. All right. For each of these answers, they want us to write it as a simplified fraction, so we just might need to reduce when we can. Example 7. Find the probability that a randomly selected student is in 7th grade. So I need all the 7th graders out of the total students. So all my 7th graders would total to 116. Out of all my students, 298. Now, instead of typing it into a calculator, we'll just see if we can reduce. I know both of those can be divided by 2. And when I divide each of those by 2, I get 58 and 149. And that's as reduced as that can go. There's not many numbers that go into 149, so I'll leave that. All right, for the next problem, what is the probability that a student chosen at random likes English? So I need all the people that like English over the total. All the people that like English here, again, over my total, 298. 85 out of 298. That actually doesn't reduce at all. So, final answer. Right, my next problem. What is the probability that a student's favorite subject is math or science, given that the student is an 8th grader? Remember, given means only look at the 8th graders. So, only focus on your 8th graders. This is the only place you're going to be able to pull any information from, is just the 8th graders. So we want math or science, but only looking at the 8th graders. So math and science would be right here. Only looking at the 8th graders, 182 for a total. 72 out of 182. I notice those are both even numbers, so I'm going to divide by 2 to reduce it. 72 divided by 2 is 36. 182, I'll type that into my calculator, divided by 2, gets me 91. That's as reduced as it'll go. Example number 10, what is the probability that a student is in 7th grade given that their favorite subject is English? Only look at English. So we'll go back up to our table. Only looking at English, where are the 7th graders? 38. Out of your total English, 85. 38 out of 85. Only looking at favorite subject English. So 7th graders out of the total English, 38 out of 85. That does not reduce, so that's my final answer. All right, our last one. What is the probability that a student who is in 7th grade, so only look at 7th grade, likes history? So I need all the people that like history, but only from the 7th graders. So this time when I look at my list, I'm going to focus on my 7th graders right here. And then the history out of the total 7th graders. 36 out of 116. 36 out of 116. I know 2 goes into both of those. They're both even numbers. Divide that, 18 out of 58. And I notice those are both still even numbers, so I'll divide it by 2 one more time. See what happens here. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 58 divided by 2 is 29. And I don't think there's anything that goes into 29, so 9 over 29 is your final answer.